When we consider the reasons that you are being called for interview and the reasons that you might not be, it's very easy to say, and in the international scene especially, and in Dubai where I am, this is a discussion that I have almost on a daily basis. Why am I not receiving any interview feedback? Why am I not being called for interview? Why is my CV not being accepted? Or why am I not hearing anything? Honestly, some of the reason is because we do not consider our own expectations or understand ourselves. We do not really understand the expectations of the school, and we have not really done our homework. And most importantly, we haven't aligned them. We haven't aligned ourselves with the school for our dream job. I would love you to be honest completely, if you can. Now, not can be honest, I'm sure you're all very honest, but if you can be bold enough, that's the word I'm looking for rather than honesty. You're all honest. Can I be bold enough to request? Can you say yes on the Q&A if you have written a CV and you have written a letter and you've sent that very same letter and very same CV to multiple schools without changing one thing? I'm a yes. I would type yes right now. Have you written a letter of application or a cover letter to accompany a CV and sent it to multiple schools? Yes, if you have. Okay, I'm slightly relieved because that means at least there's something I can share with you this morning that hopefully might be of some use. There's lots of yeses coming up. Thank you very much for being so bold and honest in your answers. So what I'd like to explore now is this: the expectations of yourself. We spoke earlier and I asked you to write down what a dream job is. What is a dream job? And you articulated that very well. So many amazing answers. Oh, the yeses are still coming. Oh, some no's. And that's super, absolutely. But hopefully there's still something for you. What I'd like you to do now is write down your dream job, the position. If you wish to share that in chat or on Q&A, that would be wonderful. But write down the position that you want. What is it you want? A teaching assistant position, a classroom teacher, a middle leader position, senior leadership, principal, trainer, something else? What is the job that you really want to go for? Write it down. And if you want to share that in chat or somewhere else, please do. Q&A or chat. Teacher, ICT, maths teacher, high class teacher, senior leadership, middle leadership, coordinator, curriculum designer, teaching assistant. Fantastic. A huge variety, a huge variety. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Follow-up question to that, please. The position you have just written, do you expect to still be happy and satisfied and all those adjectives and everything you said 20 minutes ago, do you expect that position still to fulfill you in the next 3 years? In the next 2 to 3 years, let's say 3. We want it to be at least 3. Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you need to reconsider? If it's a teaching position, do you want additional responsibility? Okay, so everyone is saying yes, fantastic. So you're considering, you have your dream job in mind, you understand, you know. So if I now share with you, I'm going to close the chat for a second, expectations of yourself and what that means. I'm giving you some bullet points. You can take screenshots, you can take notes. but I'm going to expand on these. I'm going to talk around them. If you have any questions, then please, those of you raising your hands, I'm sorry, I can't open the audio during this session. You will need to ask a question in the Q&A part of the session, and I'll try to answer as best I can. But let me go through these 7 points. The market is slow. We have COVID. Schools are having to be creative, as many businesses are. That is fact. The wonderful news for teachers is that the market has not stopped. The market has not dried up. Schools are still actively looking for positions for recruitment. Recruitment is still happening. It's still quite active. But isn't it quite disheartening when you send your CV and your letters to so many schools and you hear nothing? It affects your confidence. It affects your self-belief. You start to question whether you have the skills. If you're new to teaching, or you're at the early and the infancy of your teaching career, the first few years of your teaching career, you wonder if you have evolved enough. Have you developed enough? Have you, do you have enough in your CV? Have you taken enough courses? Are you interesting enough? And that self-doubt can manifest. And it happens, and it's real. It's happened to me. It's happened to so many that I talk to day in, day out, especially at the moment. So what are we going to do about that? How do we overcome that? How do we make sure that our CV is noticed? Well, you need to have clarity. You need to be proactive. Many of us will have multiple versions of ourselves. Now, what do I mean by multiple versions? What I mean is that you will see many jobs and you suddenly change tack. Yes, I can do that. I can do that. And the longer the process goes on, and the longer that your confidence deteriorates, the more versions of yourself there will be. Please be patient. Please be patient if you can be. Now, I understand the personal implication of this, financial implication, I do. But if you're going for this dream job, and this is what the session is about, a dream job, something that will give you everything that you said and that you imagine for the next few years, then you have to apply some patience, and you have to be true to yourself. And there must be some non-negotiables that you must be aware of. What are your non-negotiables? Could you write them down now? Do you understand what you're not going to waver for? By knowing that, this will impact greatly on how you approach the whole process. Now, when I spoke earlier, after the LinkedIn poll and you answered, I talked about point 3, the branding and the vision of yourself. And why has that evolved so much? Personal branding is now, well, let me say this, schools and education has now caught up with business, if you like. And I'm not doing a disservice to education at all. But many companies, and those of you who have worked in companies previously, or know people who have, will know that when you apply for any job in a business, in the corporate world, the first thing that most businesses will do will look at your profile. They will Google you. They will find out what you're doing in LinkedIn, what you're doing in social media, etc. That's a given now. You can accept that's a given. And it's now happening at schools, and so it should. But so should you react to it. Knowing that that is happening, we can prepare ourselves very easily. And I will go into personal branding in a little bit more detail, but we have a personal branding platform on Suraasa, which I'll share towards the end, and LinkedIn is the most obvious one that I will refer to. There are other platforms that you may know, or you may prefer, or you may like. That is absolutely fine. But one of the most looked at, of course, globally, is LinkedIn. Can I just ask just now, how many people have a LinkedIn account? Yes or no? How many people have a LinkedIn account? Yes or no on Q&A. Let's see how many LinkedIn people we have with us. Okay, thank you. A few people being honest and saying I don't have, but many do have LinkedIn. Super. So there's a variety. Now, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, I suggest you look at it. Simple as that. Secondly, if you do have a LinkedIn account, how often do you review? How often do you adapt? How often do you look at your profile? What do you do? How active are you on LinkedIn? How many people have run a workshop on LinkedIn? How many people have offered a workshop? Just that question, yes or no. How many people have set up and ran a workshop on LinkedIn? Very few people have, actually, I don't think. Rarely, some people, so a lot of no's. So let's think about this in a little bit more detail with our personal branding. Now, the resume should now be available everywhere. It should come to life. It shouldn't be on a piece of paper, on a Word document stored in your computer. It should be out there. Why? Because you might be headhunted. People are looking all the time. Become visible. Point number 5, become visible. Without connections. Now, one person on LinkedIn, in answer to my poll, said that they would apply to a job that they had connections with because it takes time to build connections and network. And I know that in that particular job, now there's two sides to that answer. Number one, fantastic that you're doing enough research to that particular establishment to know what it is and to know what's there. That's wonderful. But the second part is that you need to become visible. You need to network. You shouldn't be relying on contacts at a school. You should be making contacts. How do we do this? We need to be strategic. And I'm going to take you through a few strategic points. And then, of course, the interviewing. Now, there are a few points on this slide that will repeat themselves throughout the next few slides. We're about halfway there. But I'm going to start working towards some answers with a few key points and tasks for you to do. So that's for yourself. What are the expectations of the school? Avoid common mistakes is my first point. Now, the common mistake is simple. It is to write one letter of application, one CV, and send it to multiple schools. That will very, very, very seldom prove fruitful. Not for a dream job. It might get you a job. It might get you the dream job, but the percentages are low. Fact, in this day and age, by doing that, the percentages are low. We need to wake up. We need to take responsibility. We need to understand the expectations of the school have grown, and with the opportunity we have, there is so much more. Now, the second point, CV, letter, interview. Steps to success. I have highlighted the CV letter interview in white for one reason, because it's standard, because it's old school, because it's where we have been for the last 3-4 decades, but it is still important and it has stayed the test of time, lasted the test of time for good reason. Because of the information there, because of the process, and because of the clarity that it brings. Now, this should be a journey. Let me share, and I share this so many times on a weekly basis. The CV to the letter to the interview is a pathway, it's a journey, it's a process. If you have considered your CV carefully, not written holistically, generally, but you have really focused on key skills in your CV, and that needs consideration, and I can help you with that. If you have done that, then the letter should take care of itself. The letter should be an extension of your CV with aspects of the school. And this is a conversation I repeat so many times. The letter of application should be about 2/3 approximately set in, not stone, but you should have a foundation, a skeleton of it. The last third of your letter should be related to the school position that you're applying for. Now, it sounds obvious, but it's not done. Applying for a job requires work, it requires time, and it requires effort. You need to research the school. You need to look at the website. You need to Google the principal. You need to know the principal. You need to know the vision of the school. You need to look at the school report. And you need to consider all these points. Pick up from the website what school trips were run, what has that school won, what awards have they done, what trips are they running for the children, how proactive are they? You need to feel the school. For you to really apply for a dream job, you need to first do your research of the school. Now, once you know that school and once you've seen enough about that school to know that's a school you want to work at, then you align, as I said earlier, your own skills with that. You look at the job specification, you look at the profile, and you align it. Is that a school where you hand on heart know right now that you can make a difference? There's something at that school that you can offer, or it feels like a fit. It aligns itself with your skills, with your personality. The vision allows with your pedagogical thought. Now, if you have the first two steps in place and you have taken your time, the interview is about personality. And that is what principals want to see. By applying for the job, they will assume and they will have been able to check that you have the correct certification, the correct accreditation. They will know that you are relatively qualified for the job. What they want to see is your personality. No principal wants a school of teachers with the same personality. They want a school of teachers where parents are going to say, oh my goodness, did you see what that teacher did? Children coming home, telling their parents, did you see look at what we did today, Mum. Look what we did today, Dad. That's what a principal wants to know from you. That you will invigorate, motivate, create, and that you are part of the furniture that fits that school. But don't be put off if a school says, well, maybe you're not quite right for us. That doesn't mean you don't have the skills. That just might mean that there's another few people with the same personality. It might mean that that particular school isn't quite ready for you or you're not ready for them at that moment in time. But you must show personality. You must show pride in your work. Your network must grow. You must be visible and grow. And I repeated that from the first slide. But you must grow. How do you grow? You grow on LinkedIn. You grow on social media. But everybody is looking at it. Now, somebody's asked for a perfect resume format. I will share a resume format towards the end and share where you can get that. I'll also share where you can manage and look for positions. Now, here's an interesting thing, and this is the point number 6, visiting the school. Now, being visible and visiting the school are two different things. It's not that schools wish you to approach them. They don't want every person who is applying for a job to turn up at the school, of course not. But principals actually expect you to have done research to the school. Now, if you approach it from this way, not going to hand a resume in, you've applied for the job, you contact the school, you ask to see the principal or to hand your resume. Very often you will be met with a school secretary who'll say, sorry, please follow the process. And they are quite right. They cannot have 500 people coming to the school, but ask the secretary when there is the possibility for a school visit. Get yourself into that school if that's physically possible. If you can go to the school, get yourself to the school. This is your dream job. Why are you applying for something you don't know what it looks like? You don't know what it feels like. You've got no idea of the atmosphere. Sure, okay, you've read it on the website. That might need to do. It might need to do logistically. You might not be able to visit the school. But if you are, then visit it. Ask the school, when are you offering the opportunity for me to visit the school? I have applied. I am very keen on joining. I have looked at your website. I have researched. I have done I want to come and visit your school, please. When is this possible? Ask that question. And that is a non-negotiable for you, almost. You're not going to not apply if you really want the job and they say, sorry, we're not running this. But at least, at the very least, your name then has registered with somebody. And the secretary will go then to the head and say, somebody's asked for a school visit. Who was that? Your name is there. You're making yourself visible. Impact, 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 the last point. In any CV, in any letter of application, in any interview, you must consider the impact of what you have done and what you're trying to achieve. When you're talking at interview, speak of the impact that you have experienced, that you can demonstrate, and be ready to talk about the impact you can have and that you wish to have on the school. Not dictating, but suggesting what you can bring to the school. Even if it's something the head teacher does not want or is not interested in, it shows that you have invested yourself in that school. It shows that you've invested in time. It shows that you've gone an awful lot further than simply looking at a school, writing a CV and a letter and sending the same letter to many schools. There's nothing more frustrating than if I'm looking at a CV or a letter of application, knowing that this is the same letter that is being sent to 500 schools. I know that you're looking at other schools probably, but I want to know that you've invested time in my school, that you've invested some time in looking at what we're about and the vision and the children, etc. So aligning all this is important. This is a general slide I'm going to move on from, but this is not any job that we're thinking about. This is a dream job. Dream job is about growth, as you said, and many of you said at the outset. A dream job will not come or fall in your lap. It will not. Congratulations if it does. Very seldom will it. It requires hard work,